When you guys are changing out the rad on these Jeeps, 1997 Jeep Grand Cherokee, you want to make sure that there's some tabs in the bottom of the rad here, and you want to get them into the holes in the bottom so that your top plate here will line up. What I had happen was, you can see there's some clearance between the gearbox and the rad. What I had on the previous one was the rad was touching up hard against that gearbox. I believe it distorted this side of the rad where these fingers are hanging on to the plastic tank, and it caused a small leak at the bottom of the rad. It was very hard to find. And the reason is because them pins were in this recess. I'd get it a little closer. We're in this recess here, up against there. It would not let it go back far enough. And that was because we didn't take the whole front end of the Jeep off when we replaced the rad. And there's some framework here and cooler and everything, and that probably caused some troubles into why we didn't get the rad put in properly. So I suggest that you probably want to take off the whole front end if you're doing this job, and that'll be your front bumper, and then you have your light assembly with your grill support. And then after that, you'll have some A-arms here, your hood latch, and you take all that off, and then everything else is just normal. You gotta take off the top plate here, top hose, bottom hose down there. You got your tranny lines that are coming in here, your fan, of course, and everything else should be good. Okay, so here's a better look at these fingers or these tabs on the bottom of the rad there. And those are gonna go in through this hole and into that hole. The previous rad, those pins were not lined up in there, and they're actually right here. And it wouldn't let that was causing the interference fit between the gearbox and the rad, which I believe caused that leak. And it was a hard leak to find because it was at the bottom of on the driver's side here. It was around here where these fingers are into the plastic tank, and then it was leaking, and then it must have ran along the end of the bottom here, because the leak was showing on the passenger side in here where, you know, the petcock is. And so, but other than that, you couldn't see any leaks. You couldn't see any leaks on the rad. You couldn't see on the front or the back or anywhere. So, and this was like a slow leak, and it would, how I found it was there's always air in the system. There was gurgling coming from the heater core inside the Jeep. Every time you turn the Jeep on, you'd hear the water slushing around in there. You'd hear the gurgling and everything. So that was the indicator we had air in the system. And then there's just trying to find out where it was coming from. We had already changed the water pump once before, and there's no indication it was leaking from the pump or the hoses, top or bottom. And then so we went over this rad again and again until we tried to find that leak and why it was leaking. So just a word of advice, now that you know that, make sure that it goes in properly, and if you're having trouble getting it in properly, you might have to take the front of the Jeep off to make that happen. Just wanted to show you, I had real hell of a time getting the tranny cooler out. It was a hack installation, and so what I did was I took one of these braces off of the front here, and I removed that, and then I tack welded some brackets on here for the top and the bottom, and I bolted the tranny cooler on there. And so this bracket, it could be moved from here to here depending on the length of your hoses. If you make your hoses long enough to make it reach over here, you can switch that over if you want. Also too, depending on how it's installed in the Jeep, you can turn this around so that you can have your hoses either coming from the bottom or from the top, however you want to do that.